If you think of a car's fancy main computer as being the brain that's doing all the complex thinking, these next barrier chips are the nervous system. Those computer brains, aka the CPUs and the GPUs made by the likes of NVIDIA, Intel, for example, those are the headline grabbers. However, Nexperia's legacy, and I'm using legacy in quotes for a reason, or the other name that they go by, commodity chips, although they're not explicitly cutting edge, they are absolutely essential parts that send the signals to make everything else actually work. We're talking about hundreds of these in every single car. They control everything from your power steering and braking to the motors that roll your windows up, down, your airbag sensors, your climate control. A modern car simply cannot be built without them, period. And the scale that we're talking about here is staggering. This one company ships up to 100 billion of these components every single year. There's no quick, easy alternative just waiting on the shelf somewhere to replace Nexperia's supply. Let's break it down like this. First, which companies are customers of Nexperia and therefore will be affected, are currently affected by this disruption? What do these companies actually make? Then we'll look at the semiconductors that they're relying on and the absolutely vital functions that these semiconductors perform. After that, we'll zoom out and look at some of the plans that have been set in motion and the impact that these plans could have in fixing the situation. Beginning right in the Netherlands itself, headquarters of Stellantis. They have 14 different brands under their umbrella that you probably know of and some of you probably love. Just to illustrate the type of disruption we're talking about, just this one customer has a market cap of 25 billion euros. Then there's Honda, Nissan, Ford, BMW, Volkswagen, Mercedes, Toyota, Volvo, General Motors, Hyundai. Honda has already cut production by half at its Ontario assembly plant. They also suspended production at a plant in Mexico in late October and adjusted output at some US and Canadian factories due to dwindling chip supply. Nissan warned it only had enough of the affected chips to sustain production until the first week of November 2025. Stellantis, on the other hand, established a war room to monitor the situation and expressed grave concern over the European auto sector's zero autonomy in its supply chain. Ford was warning of imminent disruptions and that without swift action, the shortage could lead to significant Q4 production losses across the industry. BMW warned of imminent disruptions and stated that part of its supplier network were already being affected, and this was back in October already. Volkswagen was warning of imminent disruptions and established a dedicated task force to investigate supplier exposure. Mercedes-Benz, they reported it was scouring the world for alternative chip suppliers. Toyota and Volvo, on the other hand, are also navigating the supply chain fallout. General Motors and Hyundai, the list goes on, are represented by the Alliance for Automotive Innovation, which issued an urgent supply warning. Another thing to consider is that there's what they call tier 1 manufacturers who supply automakers with complex assemblies that fit directly into the vehicle's electrical structure. Now, the chips, they don't arrive as standalone elements that suppliers can easily swap out. What happens is they're soldered in already. They don't even have visibility of the pre-combined version and how the pieces are put together. What they're doing is they just paying for the crucial part of their product, receiving it, then putting their added value to make it their own product, and then passing it on. Come to think about it, it kind of reminds you of drop shipping, doesn't it? Let me know in the comments if you already knew that 99% of cars are maybe partly made drop shipping style. Now let's look at this nervous system I mentioned earlier. These parts may only cost a few cents each, but they are non-negotiable. They were designed into models years ago, and car makers, they can't just simply swap in a replacement from another supplier without going through a long and expensive requalification process, to make sure everything is safe for the end user. They are cars, after all. You have MOSFETs, which is an acronym for metal oxide semiconductor field effect transistors. These are tiny, highly efficient electronic switches. They're crucial for basically managing power in everything from EV powertrains to your car's window motors or infotainment system. Then you have diodes and rectifiers. These act as one-way gates for electricity, essential for protecting sensitive electronics and converting power. Then you have bipolar transistors. They are used to amplify electrical signals or act as simple switches. Then you have logic integrated circuits. These perform basic if-then decision making, like telling an airbag to deploy if certain sensors are triggered. Then you have ESD protection devices. These tiny chips act as bodyguards, basically protecting more expensive components from static electricity shocks. Okay, so now what's going on with this whole thing? Two major problems have been magnified with this debacle. The auto industry runs on a just-in-time supply chain, right? Without a steady flow of these tiny chips, assembly lines basically grind to a halt. This could mean a new shortage of new cars, longer waiting times for those, and higher prices. Number two, the crisis proves how a single low-cost component and failing to grasp the, I'm going to say this ironically, components of a mutually, truly reciprocal, beneficial relationship can bring a multi-trillion-dollar global industry to its knees. Behind the scenes, there is some frantic diplomacy happening. You have high-level talks between the Dutch and the Chinese, and the EU is involved. And we're starting to see a tiny bit of easing up. China is now accepting applications for exemptions to the export ban that was put in place. So a solution is being pursued, but a lot of damage has already been done. And that really brings us to a core lesson here. See, for decades, the world has built its manufacturing on this just-in-time model to be as efficient and cost-effective as possible. When we forget the bigger picture, that it's one planet and all the progress that's been made because of that efficiency, by design, things hit the fan really quickly. I'm going to keep following the story. Give a like if it's helped you understand a little more. And while you're doing that, 99% of you keep watching but don't subscribe. It really helps the channel grow if you do, so thank you. And it gets pushed to more people if you subscribe. See you in the next video.